What's up, San Antonio UUs? Dr. XK here with a bonus segment following the Thanksgiving sermon and service on Sunday, November 24th. I was thinking about how do we develop a flexible response in our families and in our community. And I thought, well, what better way to add to that sermon than to talk about my own experience of doing just that. And I realized I could have shared that yesterday, but just didn't cross my mind. So here it is for you now. How did I develop a flexible response with my family of origin, my nuclear family? That would be my parents and my sister and others beyond in that small circle. Well, I grew up in Georgia, in Columbus, Georgia, and I went to school in Atlanta. And when I would go home, I would have this pattern of running into the house, going right to the refrigerator, seeing what's there to eat or drink, and then just kind of sitting there in the kitchen for a while by myself. And then later I would go up and visit with my mother, who usually would be upstairs, or she may be somewhere else in the house doing something. And we just chat about, you know, basically meaningless stuff, just getting together, talking. Often I just kind of drift into, what is my sister doing, which was kind of a common topic. We like to kind of pile on her. I realized after I became a minister that I needed to change that. And the way I did it was first I had to just realize that that pattern wasn't helping me, and it wasn't helping me with my relationship with my mother to be deeper or more meaningful or more authentic. So I had to shift my mindset. And the mindset that I adopted was that of how I handle and how am I with my friends. And I realized that my friends and I have some very deep relationships built over the years, not long as my family, but still long enough, based on having genuine common experiences and having talk through problems and talk through transitions in our lives that helped us become who we are. So I said, why don't I just try that with my mother rather than doing that old, short, tired song and dance. When I go home, board the refrigerator all together, and I go talk to my mother about something that's meaningful. So I did that. I remember the first time I did it, I went home and my mother was in the kitchen, and I just said, would you have a seat for a minute and let's talk about what's going on with me and what's going on with you. And I began to ask my mother, what is happening in her life. I asked her about her health, which is something I just almost never talked about. I asked her about her work. She's a funeral director. And just asked her about how she gets along at church and how she gets along on a daily basis. And this turned the tide on us having a more genuine conversation about what was going on with each other. And I then realized that I could talk to my mother not just as child or son to mother, but people who are two equals in the sense that we're two grown adults and have two fully developed lives going on in tandem, but weren't necessarily or hardly at all connected in reality, except for that short, brief time that I was at home. And then we go back our certain ways, separate ways, and I never would know what was going on with my mom unless I called her and we had that little short conversation on the phone about, kind of the topical surface issues and surface topics. So anyway, that's kind of the example. I did the same thing with my dad, a little bit different, but still the same approach. Try to get some understanding of how his daily life was and maybe give him a snapshot or a bigger picture of my life on a daily basis to help him understand that my life was full in a lot of ways and not what they may have imagined it as, or maybe just guessed it. But I wanted to give them a true insight to what I was doing. And with that, I could just avoid all that old stuff that we talked about altogether. I mean, it just wasn't meaningful in the first place. It's just something you talked about with your parents and your siblings, but doesn't always have any grounding in an authentic relationship. It's just about filling the space and trying to keep the myth of family, of how families can be loving and friendly and fun, but maybe not grounded in people's everyday realities. So I don't want this to be long and boring. In the church community, I think you can do something similar. when you meet a person or know a person that you've known for a while, if you talk about just church stuff, you may ask the person about something that is more drilled down into their life, about their life, work, and what do they do on a daily basis at the job, and what are the challenges at the job, and maybe what are the dynamics in the family, and how do they deal with those dynamics, and then share those same questions or curiosities that you have with them that reflect your life and give them an insight to how you are. And that, I think, can open up the range of possibility for relationships in the church, make them more authentic, still grounded in our common faith, Unitarian Universalism, but expanded to encompass the whole person concept of humanity, and not just the smallness that we talked about that people are living into because they have a certain image of themselves and they want that projected to others. Give them the real you, and that will invite them to give you their real self in return. I hope this helps for Thanksgiving and beyond. Hopefully it wasn't too boring and insightful in some way to help us build the community that we strive to be here as Unitarian Universalists in San Antonio, Texas. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Happy Thanksgiving and happy holidays.